really looked into this because I don't. Were the accounts I read, George Reeves did not have any children. However, Christopher Reeves. George Reeves actually changed his name, but Christopher Reeves, and he died a very, his accident was. There are theories behind that. The whole Superman curse. I guess it's, too much kryptonite. I don't know. But the saying is that if you are related or associated or have any connection to Superman series, TV shows, movies, whatever, you are going to be plagued with something tragic happening to you. And I can see it in these two men who played Superman. Obviously Christopher Reeves, and then first George Reeves and then Christopher Reeves later on. However, George Reeves was not born George Reeves. He was born in Iowa. My dog loves to just start jumping around and squeaking her toys every time I go to make a video. It's so funny, I guess. Strange story. And anybody who knows the story of Christopher Reeves, he was actually born George Keith Brewer. He was born on January 5th, 1914 in Woolstock, Iowa, United States. He died in Benedict Canyon, Los Angeles, California on June 16th, 1959. Now, that's what we're going to talk about, because it says cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head. However, that is not the full story by any means. So, was the Superman murdered or mysterious death of George Reeves a suicide? Reeves, whose death is still puzzling people today. From 1951 to 1958, George Reeves played Superman in both a live-action movie and popular television series. Reeves was too closely associated with the role to find other work, which is another factor of the curse. But a lot of actors and actresses in Hollywood find this to be true. They get stuck in one role, even if they've played hundreds of roles, and they find one role that they stick with, and kind of people start to call them that. They start thinking of that person, and they can't get another job, or it's very difficult. On June 16th, 1959, days before his wedding, so he's about to get married. This does not sound like a depressed man. Before his wedding to society playgirl Lenore Lemon, he was found dead. It leaves people with this unanswered, lingering thought: was it suicide or murder? And this is why. The boy is dead in the early morning hours of June 16th when a gunshot rang out from the upstairs room of Reeves' home in Benedict Canyon. Within the hour, the police were on the scene. But the people that were his friends and fiancé were downstairs partying, having a great time. Never called the police until about an hour after they heard the gunshot. Okay, I mean, if I'm in a home and I hear a gunshot, I'm calling the cops before I even go check on the body. That's for darn sure. So, present in the house at the time of Reeves' death. I'm kind of stalling because of the really obnoxious train I have honking its horn in the background. I think they think it's funny. The later it gets, the more they honk. Damon, his fiancée, William Bliss, and writer Robert Condon, and neighbor Carol Van Ronkel. Reports vary about what actually happened earlier in the night, and this is where hearsay comes in. I hate hearsay instead of the courts. So it's really hard to believe when people are like, oh yeah, I saw them out. And they were fighting. So it had to have been his wife because they were fighting. Well, when police asked Lemon about what happened that night, she said, that is absolutely impossible because we were at a fight. And I'll tell you why we were at a fight. Wrestling match, because Condon was ghostwriting the autobiography of prize fighter Archie Moore. Now, I don't know if the police ever checked this out. I'm hoping they did. But who knows? This case is very, very strange and seems to be an open and shut case. However, you have to listen to the details. Told Reeves' biographer that there was no dinner. Instead, they went to a wrestling match as Condon was ghostwriting the autobiography of prize fighter Archie Moore. Either way, the three returned to the house where Reeves went to bed. So he's tired. He's going to sleep, right? Around midnight, Bliss and Van Ronkel show up, and impromptu parties broke out with the four of them. So they're drinking and partying and having a great time, while her fiancé's upstairs, apparently no care of his feelings whatsoever, because he's tired from working and he wants to get some sleep, and she's making apparently a lot of noise to the point of where it wakes him up, and he comes down the stairs and he's really annoyed, but he sits down, he has a drink with them, he's cordial, but after his drink he just went back upstairs and he was annoyed, and I would be too. I wouldn't even have a drink. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, look, this is my house too. You know, why would you invite people and then make a ton of noise while you know I'm sleeping? Because one thing about this man, he worked very, very hard. Very hard. Reeves comes downstairs, annoyed about the noise. He stayed for a bit, had a drink. Apparently that's according to his fiancée, okay, and his other three friends. So, shortly after this, the group hears a gunshot, and Bliss found Reeves' body with a .30 caliber Luger pistol at his feet and a gunshot wound to his head. So, they sat around. The police said that they did not call, or they told the police, and the police agreed with them, that they were not called because they were all so intoxicated and it was so late at night, and they just, you know, who they were, they didn't want to be involved in anything, you know. So that's what they waited an hour to call the cops. What? If I'm a famous person, for one, and I don't care how much I've had to drink, I'm calling the darn cops if I hear gunshots up in my bedroom. Oh my gosh. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. But the police are like, oh yeah, okay, great, okay. And apparently found that to be totally okay. So then, there was a delay between the discovery of the body and calling the police. None of those at the scene made an apology for that. They're just so messed up, and you know, so late, and the whole shock of the thing. And they had their reasons, as the police said. Official cause of death of Reeves was a suicide from the first autopsy. Wait, so there is this little teeny tiny thing, element of mystery, and it may suicide, but I'm telling you, I don't believe so. And many people didn't believe it, and especially while Reeves was depressed at the time of his death. This man worked through all his problems. I mean, he was in so many films and had so many ups and downs to his career. He went to the army, then he went to the, Air Force. So, and he even dug ditches and dug, cesspools, This man was a hard worker. He's not gonna let a little, lull in his career make him kill himself, that's for sure. Not in my opinion. Not that I am a psychiatrist or an expert, but somebody with that kind of drive, their whole life isn't gonna decide one night, oh, my career's a little bit of a lull, I'm just gonna kill myself. I'm getting married tomorrow, but, might as well put an end to it. Does that make sense? And another thing that didn't make sense, which I don't think the cops found this to be strange either. 3 shots were fired in the room, 2 on the floor and 1 in Reeves' head. Wow. Well, I didn't know people that killed themselves were that bad of an aim. And there were no fingerprints on the gun. So, the killer, which was said to have been Reeves, must have had gloves on because he wanted to conceal the fact he killed himself. Okay. Well, there wasn't any gunshot residue on his hands, on his body, anywhere. But the police, I guess, didn't think about testing the other people that were there due to their hierarchy and status in society. I guess they didn't want to bother them or inconvenience them. So his mother was like, me, no. Sorry, this does not add up at all. It doesn't. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And I can't believe the coroner signed off on this as a suicide, because the second coroner that looked at him said that there were contusions on him after she hired this attorney, Geisler, to get the case reopened. Geisler got a second autopsy which found bruising on the head and body of Reeves as if he were attacked by more than one person. Then there were morbid comments that Lemon reportedly said at the time of his death. When Reeves went upstairs, she said, oh, quote, he's going upstairs to shoot himself, unquote. And then she said, she describes as Reeves got the gun, and when a gunshot rang out, she said, I told you, he shot himself, quote, unquote. Who says that, okay? What an arrogant, you know what? No fingerprints were found on the gun, and there was no gun residue test performed on Reeves' hands. Okay, after a month on the case, and this is really weird, Geisler declared that he was satisfied it was a suicide, even after the second autopsy clearly showed it wasn't. And he refused to investigate any further. Now, it does say later on that he may have had mafia ties, and that's why he was kind of like forced out of the case. But Geisler was paid tons of money by Reeves' mother to investigate. And that is really suspicious as well. It's like they kind of all planned on doing this, getting, paying off the police with their money, getting his mother, who they knew would never believe this, money, and then, a rich attorney, rich police, they're all happy. And Tinseltown is Tinseltown again. when he wanted to, I guess, marry Lemon, he cut this off, and that pissed her off. So she was married to an MGM studio fixer, Eddie Mannix, and Reeves had a serious affair with her. He dumped her for Lemon, which reportedly left her devastated and furious. So Reeves, on her behalf, or that Mannix snuck into the home of Reeves, and her husband merely cleaned up the scene with 4 people downstairs. Oh, that makes no sense. Okay. So, there was no forced entry. So they had to sneak in the house somehow without these 4 people that are sitting right in the middle of the family room. And he's on the 2nd or 3rd floor. Nobody heard them. These 2 people killing him, cleaning up, and then leaving. Does that make sense to you? That's almost funny. And it's not funny, but it's almost a funny theory. If that is the truth, let's just pretend it is. That's insane and absurd. But, well, a good hitman could probably get around that. Yeah, but a good hitman is not going to come to a home with 4 people who could be witnesses that could identify him. He would get him while he was out. Hello? They aren't thinking clearly. Especially a hitman from the mafia. You'd think his boss would be happy if he went and killed this guy, this famous man, basically in front of 4 people, knowing that the cops are gonna show up. Of course not. He would never be that stupid. I'm sorry. In 1999, an LA publicist, Edward Lozzie, said that Mannix confessed to a priest in front of him as having a role in Reeves' death. This statement has been disputed by Jack Larson, a close friend of Mannix. So it's always hearsay in Hollywood, right? So everybody has a say, or has an opinion. Oh yeah, I saw them. I saw her with him. Okay. What's the old saying? Believe 20% of what you see, 10% of what you read, and nothing of what you hear, or something like that. It's the truth. I mean, if it weren't, then the Inquirer, Star, those kind of magazines would not be able to exploit people the way they do, and Photoshop, and tell crazy stories that aliens came and got them, and I mean, think about that. But some people think that is gospel, so I'm not gonna say anything about that. According to Reeves' friend Fred Crane, who heard from Millicent Trent, who heard from William Bliss, that Lamone was upstairs when the shots rang out. So you can see this. Oh, well, I heard from this person that heard from this person, right? Who was actually there, that heard her say, as she was reportedly running downstairs, instead of just calmly sitting there going, see, I told you he killed himself. I believe that probably more than I believe this. Tell them I was down here. Tell them I was down here. So she's yelling this through the house after he shot himself. 3 times. He missed twice. And boy, this guy who was in the Army and in the Air Force was a terrible shot. If he had to take, he hit twice at the floor and once in the head. I don't think so. And I can't believe that nobody, I mean, this guy obviously had Army training and Air Force training. He knew how to use a knew something else was going on. And then the attorney just dropping it without reviewing it further after taking so much money from her. There's a scam there. But it is what it is. So, he starred in so many roles. Superman, the television program Adventures in Superman, Stamp Day for Superman. I mean, seriously. He went to acting school, Polytech, in Pasadena, California. His first spouse, his only spouse was Eleanor Needles. He died at age 45 from a gunshot. That is obviously still controversial. But, and then it says, but some believe he was murdered in an accidental shooting. I don't think that if she killed him, it was accidental. Sorry. I just don't think that at all. He did not have any children. They were married for 10 years, his first wife and he, Eleanor Needles. And then, literally he was cast in Gone with the Wind. Warner Brothers signed him. He played, on set with Ronald Reagan. 20th Century Fox signed him. Charlie Chan, he played in Dead Men Tell. He played in tons. I'm not going to even read them. There's just so many. Hopalong Cassidy, he did 7 pages of a script in a single take. That's how good his mind was. Without a pause. That's incredible. He appeared in 5 Hopalong Cassidy westerns before being cast as Lieutenant John Summers opposite Claudette Colbert in So Proudly We Hail. So Paramount Pictures, who signed him up for 2 films a year. So then he put his acting career on hold because doing that had kind of made him really empathetic about the war. He felt like he should do his duty to society, and so he actually joined the U.S. Army Forces and performed in the USAAF's Broadway show Winged Victory. The long Broadway run was followed by a national tour and movie version. Anybody who does Broadway, I give props to. That is a grueling schedule, and you've got to be not in a bad mood. You've got to be happy when you're sad. You've got to be, full when you're hungry. It's just when you're tired, you have to be awake. And it's not like you can do drugs because those will catch up to you. So this man was really a hard worker. Then, literally almost every big producer in Hollywood or production company in Hollywood hired this man. He was just in everything. But then after he came out of the war, after the war ended, they were receiving less and less paid jobs, and they were and the ones that were paid just weren't paid any money. It was very little. So he had a second job digging cesspools, and that's what I mean. He was just not gonna let life get him down. I just don't believe he committed suicide. He did well under rush production conditions. He was able to play against type and starred as villainous Gold Hunter. Jungle Gym film. He moved to New York City in 1949. And then, Fritz Lang, film Rancho Notorious, The Eternity, Academy Award. He had 2 Academy Awards for Best Picture. So, he really had a lot of success. And then in 1951, this is when he played in Superman and The Adventures of Superman on television. And he was initially reluctant to play this role because he was, and a lot of actors were back then, because they didn't think they would get any publicity on TV. They didn't realize how big TV was going simultaneously to take advantage of the standing sets for example of all Perry White's office scenes. I mean, for 3 or 4 episodes would be shot in the same day in the various apartments. I mean, that's not heard of, okay? I mean, that is unheard of today. This man was, a rock star in my mind. I mean, he really had everything was going great. He was getting married. He earned additional income from personal appearances, had an affection for his young fans, and took his role models seriously. He did not smoke cigarettes, did not, especially if he could be seen by a child. Nonetheless, he had a romantic relationship with a married ex-showgirl, 8 years his senior, Tony Mannix, wife of Metro Goldwyn Mayer General Manager Eddie Mannix. So, that might not have been such a great idea. Not that he was like a philanthropist. I mean, he wasn't with a ton of women. But I think that was not a good decision. He had spread goals. But then he kept, even after, as he was playing Superman, he had the Blue Gardenia. It goes on and on and on. Really, since Reeves was dissatisfied with the salary and the show's one-dimensional role, he was 40 years old and wanted to quit and move on with his career. So he was already thinking about it. So he may have been a little bit depressed that he didn't have a job at the time, or wasn't working, or whatever happened. But I doubt that he was depressed about, to where he'd kill himself. He was probably just what am I gonna do next? At that point, you've done almost every single possible movie. You played a part in, literally, I'm looking at this and thinking back then, he played in a lot of them. I'm shocked. And this was a great recommendation, because I had never heard of this case. And, tying it in with the whole Superman, theory is very, very interesting to me. His good friend Bill Walsh, a producer at Disney Studios, gave Reeves a prominent role in Westward Ho! The Wagons in 1956. It was after he split with Mannix, and then was gonna get married to this kind of Hollywood playgirl, Lamone, that he died, and everything kind of went downhill, because really, no matter what seemed to happen to him in his life, he succeeded, he achieved. But I wanted to say thank you to a subscriber who always has these really interesting cases for me that I did not know of. I had no idea of any of this, so it was very cool to read and investigate this. And I do not think that he committed suicide, and I would hate to think, if I was his mother, I would really be upset that after all he did in Hollywood, that's how they ended it, and we're okay with that. Where were his real friends? So, thank you, Mark. And if you want to have the most amazing experience with falling to sleep to some amazing music, you've got to look up Dreamscape's sleep music.